So this guy's name is Dick Merrill. He led an astonishing life, became one of the most famous American pilots, and it all began in Iuka, Mississippi. Merrill was described as a good-natured but very serious kid, and he had his eye on aviation ever since it started developing as a field. When World War I rolled around, he enlisted with the hopes of eventually learning to become a pilot. In 1920, he bought his first plane for $600. Today, that'd be around $9,000. He had a chance to show off his initial piloting chops in various air shows, but where he really excelled was how long he could stay in the air. He got a job delivering the mail, and by 1930 held the record for the longest cumulative flight, propelling him to the highest-paid mail carrier in the country. Eddie Rickenbacker, the famous World War I pilot and war hero, described Merrill as the greatest commercial pilot he had ever seen, and his fame quickly spread across the country, earning him gigs all over the place, including as the pilot for Dwight Eisenhower during his 1952 presidential campaign. But despite all this fame, Merrill refused to admit just how good he was. He would usually just pass it off as a joke or call himself lucky, something that his superiors quickly squashed. But what really cemented Merrill's legacy was his famous ping-pong flight across the Atlantic. Merrill declared that he would take off from the United States, fly to Europe, gas the plane up, and then fly straight back, something that had never been done before. He also filled the fuselage of his plane with over 41,000 ping-pong balls, hoping that that would help the plane float if he had to put it down in the ocean. His co-pilot and the financier for the trip was a man fittingly named Harry Richmond. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because that's the guy that sang the song Puttin' on the Ritz. And they made it back and forth across the Atlantic in record time, despite Richmond panicking and dumping most of their fuel partway across. His exploits continued, and soon news outlets were using his speed as a way of delivering breaking news across the ocean. He was the pilot that delivered film of both the Hindenburg disaster and of King George's coronation. He flew supplies during World War II, and later as a commercial air pilot, he saved the lives of 70 passengers when a propeller broke off the plane, tore through the cabin, and he was able to still safely land. He continued to set speed and distance records the rest of his life, and by the time that he retired as the pilot with the most cumulative miles in the air of anyone in history. Pretty amazing for a young boy from Iuka who just couldn't wait to fly. I'm telling you, there's just something in the water there.